Once again, everybody, to another episode of the Agency CEO series. I'm very pleased today to introduce a guy who I have a lot of respect for, a guy who we're talking to today, Darren Kingman, CEO of Root Digital. Root are an organic search agency in the simplest terms, but I guess it's probably better to hear it from the horse's mouth, Darren. So do you want to kind of intro us in and kind of explain who you are and, kind of a bit more about the agency?
Yeah, so myself, I've been doing digital PR and SEO for a while, 13, 14 years now. I was part of a big agency in London, working on global accounts from there. I then kind of decided that I wanted something else in my life. I had a 1-year-old, all the kind of stuff that comes with that. So I went freelance around 5 years ago, just under 5 years ago. Got too busy. That's how Root started. Decided that I wanted something a bit bigger than just me freelancing. From there, so I started hiring, and then kind of all the stuff that comes with that. We merged. Well, we became Root Digital. So as an agency, like you said, we're very much organic search and digital PR. Digital PR is the kind of bread and butter of the agency. It's the largest part of what we do and what we provide for our clients. But our focus is very much on the SEO side of that. So what impact are we having for the clients that we work with when it comes to the digital PR work? And that's the flow of equity through the site and the impacts that we have on their ability to drive organic revenue. So that's us. That's what we've been doing very well. Won a few awards, up for a few more. Client retention rates great, and that's kind of the focus. We're a part of I suppose a more of a slow growth type mindset in the way that we run things. So it's not about 100% growth every year and I need to double revenue. It's more about how do we maintain what we have, keep the relationship building and go from there. So as an agency, that's kind of the culture that we have when it comes to client side and internal as well. So I suppose that differentiates us a little bit from a lot of the other agencies that just want to get to 100 people, 200 people and keep going.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And just for context for people that are kind of listening, watching, sort of, how many people are you? What can you share about kind of levels of revenue or growth, that kind of stuff, so they can get some context around, the stage you're at.
Yeah, so we employ, I think it's 11 people full time at the moment. So some of the things that we do as part of our process on a day-to-day basis, things like design, we haven't brought in-house yet. So those are the kind of areas that we'd be thinking about next. Copywriting to a degree, but we've still got quite a lot on, so we'll see how that goes. And also ChatGPT. We don't know what impact that's going to have on the copywriting landscape, right? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're around 11 people. Revenue last year was just under £1 million. Profit margin wise, it changes. So at the moment, we're going through a very much kind of investment and processing ourselves, I suppose. So we're looking at and have launched websites of our own as well, just to try and give some diversity to revenue streams and stuff like that. So kind of the last 12 months, and so has been a bit different to the way that the agency was running before, when it was purely agency work. But it tends to be around 25-30%, something like that in terms of net. So yeah, that's us in terms of size.
Yeah, very good. So you're running a fairly efficient ship despite the kind of growth, and like you say, you have to invest in that, don't you? So good to hear that you're maintaining a decent level of margin while you're doing it. So I guess 11 people, million-ish quid of revenue, there is some stuff that keep you awake at night, right? So, what's kind of on your mind at the moment? What are the real tricky bits right now?
Yeah, I mean, generally I sleep like a baby, Simon, to be honest with you. I'm pretty good at night. It's every now and then you go through stuff and stuff does keep you up. And for me, it's mostly, is everything okay? Like, is everyone okay? Is it still running the way that I wanted it to be running? Yeah, is everyone all right? I mean, people go through different things, and one of the reasons, like I said earlier, that I set Root Digital up is to have a lifestyle that I thought matched what I want, and I thought by extension other people would want a similar thing too. So we're a fully remote agency. And that has its challenges as well. But for me, it's kind of like, is that person okay? Is it, what are they going through? What have they got on? And by extension as well, like the client, are they getting enough of what we've said we deliver, and are we on track and all that kind of stuff? It's a lot of moving parts, and I suppose as we grow, the moving parts that stick within my mind grows at the same time. So, by extension, the more projects that we have on, the more I'm then thinking about. But typically, like I said, like it's a slower growth agency, and for me, that means just trying to not. I don't want to burn out, and I don't want people that work for Root to burn out and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so I suppose naturally that means that I can sleep at night pretty well, and I don't have to go to bed worrying about we're not growing fast enough or whatever it is. It's pretty much like, cool, come 5 o'clock, half 5, I go downstairs, I have dinner with my family, we play Mario because that's what they're into at the moment, and that kind of stuff. And I switch off every now and then. I like to do ideation in the evenings because it's all quiet and I can do a bit of that. But apart from that, I suppose I'm quite good at just cutting off when I'm supposed to cut.
Yeah, it's a really good tip, isn't it, to be able to do that? Because I think, people, when it can be all encompassing and incessant when you are building. So the ability to be able to do that is good because, like you say, otherwise, stress and mental health and those kind of things do really suffer because it's not easy. So obviously you have, kind of solved some key challenges. What are there any kind of particular growth challenges or kind of build challenges that you've solved recently that, you're kind of perhaps most proud of? And it's sticking out.
Yeah, so one that I kind of noted before was, and I suppose it's a big thing in the agency world at the moment as well, is the types of clients that you take on. So I suppose a lot of us, we get leads fairly regularly from clients that you might think are morally, they're kind of on the border, right? It's like gambling clients and that kind of stuff, and they do, quite often they spend a big budget. And so for me, it's not so much of a growth challenge in a way, but it's kind of sticking to the mindset that I wanted as an agency and just making sure that I'm not taking on a million accounts and giving myself the problems that come with that. It's more taking on the kind of accounts that I think we want to be working on, and that work for us as a company as well. So it's kind of tapering ourselves and making sure you don't take on too much, or you don't take on the right clients, because then it's not going to be the right balance for you. You'll probably go to bed and not fall asleep quite as easily as I've described it, and that kind of stuff. So it's not been a problem as such, but it's a problem I think we averted or avoided.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very good point that, picking the right clients is often much better in the long term, isn't it? For margin, for team, for culture, and all of those things, what you see time and time again, understandably, actually. And, I think, that we suffered from this when we were building early on, is that, you take stuff on because it's there and you need the revenue to support the growth, but actually, it can come back to hurt you. So, it's interesting that you've taken that, that route.
In some instances, there's no way of knowing before you take a client on, what this relationship's going to be like. And it's the kind of old mantra, especially at the agency I used to work for, Built Visible. It's like, don't be a dick and stuff like that. And you kind of expect that both ways, right? You don't be a dick yourself, and you don't want somebody to be a dick to you. But it's really hard to know when you're talking to anyone, once, twice on a quick video call, what the relationship might be like. So it's hard to know, but you can kind of pick and choose the industries at least that you want to work in, and you're kind of, I suppose, your understanding of what that industry is like. There's some that are just going to be more high energy, that you are constantly pushing and so on and so forth, and or a way a company's set up as well. That's often a telltale sign. But typically, I think we've been quite fortunate with the companies that we've picked to work with, that we have lovely phone calls. Like this week, last week, I had some big phone calls to jump on, and it's, although you're talking about important stuff, you're working with people that you can have a laugh with. 20 minutes of the phone calls is spent talking about their week and what's going on and all that kind of stuff, and it's not work. It takes a while to get around to work. So I think you can cultivate your relationships as well, and that becomes part of how you live your life and the stresses that you take on board as well.
Yeah, and actually, it's a very good thing to have that sort of relationship. There was always a saying that we had in that for the client services team, but anybody kind of interfacing with client, that actually, you should never get to the point of them shouting at you, because you should have the relationship where you know that there are issues and you're solving them as you go, rather than it being a surprise. Obviously, occasionally big things happen, don't they? But outside of those black swan events. So I guess
Yeah.
that's helpful, and I think really interesting to dig into that kind of client relationship a little bit. Perhaps switch it around a little bit and ask the question in a slightly different way. In that, what kind of advice would you, if you're a client, in-house person listening in, what sort of advice would you therefore give to them in terms of being able to get the best out of their agency?
As in, whilst they're going through the sales process, or at the point that there is.
Yeah. So while they're working with an agency, so like, what advice would you give a client to get the most out of you guys, basically?
Interesting question, Simon. A lot of it comes down to relationship, I suppose, that, and obviously that's a two-way thing, right? Like, from my side, it's very much, and I suppose this is a skill, for me personally, building relationships, right? So, for me, if you've got that kind of transparency in the relationship, as well as the ability to just not take too seriously as well, things come out of that. Like, ideas form out of that, or people can push the boundaries a little bit more, because they know that you're not going to slam down on their concepts too hard when they might be trying to come up with something a little bit different. That the ability to just have a bit more of a back and forth and a chat, I think, allows us as well to feel comfortable in what we're trying to do. We might have 6 concepts that we're coming up for a client. How safe do we want to play it? Do we want to do those pieces that we kind of feel like, yeah, I've got cool, we'll definitely get like 10 to 20 links for a piece, or could we go and present something that might get 100, 200 links? And often they're the ones that require a bit of different thinking, or the methodology might be something we've never tried before, so we need a bit more flexibility and give in the way that we're going to experiment with a project. And if the in-house person, the client that we're working with, is very kind of knows what they want and wants something safe, and we don't really feel like we could push the boundary, then they're probably not going to get as many experimental things as a result. So I suppose that would be my advice, is give them the ability to I suppose, be creative, because when it comes to digital PR and SEO, it's a very creative field.
Yeah, the whole point about that they're hiring trusted people, so trust you to get on with it. The trust element is a really important part of that, isn't it?
Really hard to do as well, though, right? Like, if you're paying an agency and this entity, thousands of pounds a month, it's and especially if you've got ideas yourself, it's hard to kind of devolve that responsibility to them as well. But I suppose it's just kind of giving the sense that we're all able to experiment, we're open to ideas and that kind of stuff, and then you'll get the best ideas from people, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, and obviously, and then moving on to the kind of the in-house challenge, and thinking a little bit about, obviously, bringing in the people that have the ability to do the stuff that you're talking about. And it's hard to find people that are really good at both delivery, but also actually, interacting with client and getting the right thing and understanding client, and ultimately looking for, to grow that client account. How have you found recruitment recently? And, what have you got, any kind of tips or advice for people, trying to hire in, what is a difficult space, right?
Yeah, so that it can be a tricky one. So I haven't always got it right. And it's really, really hard to know, right? Like, I go through typically a 2-stage hiring process. One is kind of like the first, just to say hello, just to see, are we on the same page with the way that we talk and think and stuff like that? Is there a relationship here? So for me, and digital culture is a big thing. The way that we talk to each other, the way that we jump on and help each other. Everyone's always kind of available to give an extra eye over something. So maintaining that and growing that's a big part. But the first call that we have is very much along those lines. Like, is this person someone that I think would really work at Root and feel like they're just slotting pretty much instantly. The second one is typically more task based. So I'm really trying to understand, what's this person's knowledge like when it comes to technical SEO, or what's this person's ideas and knowledge of methodologies like when it comes to digital PR. So we set a task there. Typically, obviously, you do a bit of Q&A and all that kind of stuff, and you're really trying to test the idea and somebody's ability to think on their feet. which can be, kind of in theory, right? You've got the culture ticked, you've got the kind of practical element of the work ticked, but you won't know what somebody's kind of like on a day-to-day basis. Are they? You message them, are they there? And especially as a remote agency, that can be tricky, and then that happens if that can continue to happen or snowball and stuff like that, and then you're behind on projects. You're saying to a client, yes, sorry, we're behind on here, but we're doing this kind of stuff to rectify. That can be a challenge, and that we haven't always nailed. A lot of the time, I'd say maybe 70% of the time, 80% of the time, we've got it right. But when it does go wrong, it's a bit, it's like the old Pareto thing. You get it right 20% of the time, but it's an 80% kind of big problem, and that's a big challenge when it comes to for us for recruitment as well.
Yeah, and I mean, interesting. Obviously, you being fully remote. There's lots of people with lots of questions in that area. Obviously, we know we're doing so today. Apologies for the barking dog. That proves it earlier. But really interested in because you've almost been remote from day dot, right? So really interested in your experiences there, and perhaps anything even if it's just small tips and tricks to how you kind of keep everybody glued together, because I'm not sure that anybody's kind of figured that out entirely yet, have they?
No, I don't know. I feel like we've done. I don't think you can be 100%. Anyway, like if you're office or remote, I mean, you're still, when it comes to recruitment, right? You're always going to have someone that doesn't quite click or something like that, and that's irrespective of where you are. But as a remote team, obviously, there's a lot of benefits to us as a business. And also when it comes to recruitment, but the things that we do as a team, I mean, for me, video calls are an important part of our kind of week to week. I wouldn't say day to day, but week to week, because you feel like you really know someone. When we've met up in the past, we do twice a year. We do a summer get together and a Christmas get together. So there are kind of real world relationships that I want people to be able to form, because that's an important part of it. And when we have our video calls, and then you meet up, it's just, it feels like, oh, hey, I feel like I work with you in an office all the time anyway. You feel like you've instantly bridged that, what could be an uncomfortable moment if you never see this person, instantly. So that feels like an important part of things. We do something called, I actually brought it from an old colleague of mine, Heather introduced it a bit visible. We call it deskies. So on a Friday afternoon around 4 p.m, it's kind of like down tools. If you can, if you're still on a project, crack on, obviously. But if somebody can, down tools, let's jump on a video call as a team and just talk about what happened in Mandalorian last night, or whatever it is, and just have a chat about what you're doing this weekend. And that again is stuff like that I think helps to bridge that gap. Another one is we're on Slack all the time, so somebody's doing a press release, or they've researched the project, we'll drop it into a team chat, say if anyone can have a look at this, great. Typically somebody jumps on within 5 minutes, and even beating me to the punch, and it's kind of pointless me going through it all the time. But and I suppose that's a team vibe, right? If you've got that from the get-go between you and the people that you hire initially, then the snowball just works from there, and people pick up that culture. But yeah, it's stuff like that I think helps a remote team, and possibly some of the stuff that you probably wouldn't do if you were in an office. I mean, obviously office teams have Slack, but if somebody's dropping work in all the time and they're just kind of sitting over there, I think some people kind of probably wouldn't react in the way that
less comms actually. Interesting. Interesting.
Exactly that.
Great. Well, look, that's been really helpful. I think a lot of people will be very interested in your learnings there. I think we've just about got time for a quick fire round to kind of finish off, if you're up for that. So just very quickly, what would you say that you guys are the best in the world at?
Yeah, that's a fun answer. I saw that on your list. I was like, okay, that can go one of two ways, right?
Of course, yeah. That's why we ask.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, but I'd say, and this might be a cop-out, we're among the best when it comes to digital PR. There are some agencies that I really like. I love their work. I love the way they're set up, and you kind of idolize them or look up to them as well and try and replicate. So I'd say when it comes to digital PR work, we're really up there. The links that we build per campaign, from what I've seen, is over 200% of the average kind of top UK agency, what they report. And for us, that's, you know, that's amazing. Every day the team are putting in, you know, Daily Mail links, Tech Radar links, and so on and so forth. And that, I can't see why we wouldn't be right up there when it comes to.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, you should have those aspirations and beliefs as well, shouldn't you? So that's great. Next question. Top three attributes for an agency founder to have.
Okay, interesting. Agency founder. Cool. So at some point in a founding journey, you're going to be on your own and you need to grow an agency, right? So one thing that you have to be able to do is kind of talk the talk as well, because you're going to be in sales, and you know, that's part of it. You could be the world's best digital PR, you could be the world's best SEO, but if you can't communicate what the benefit is to a future client, then you're going to struggle. So for me, being able to get in the room or jump on a video call, as in most of the world's case for the past couple of years, and talk about what you're really good at and why someone should work with you, that's super key. Yeah. Marketing as well is a big part of that. So something that I don't think we've nailed. You know, I always have Kirsty Holst's advice jumping around in my head. I don't know her personally, but this always stuck. It was do good things and tell people. And for me, we're very good at doing good things, but telling people is key. We've done a pretty good job at it, but I think we can do better. And I think that's, you know, you've seen you know, kind of Rise at 7. Their marketing it's been phenomenal across the past couple of years, and it's probably fundamental to their growth. Their ability to talk about everything that is important to them socially, I think, has built up their profile, and therefore their sales funnel. So that I'd say would be a key one. And lastly, I'm thinking off my feet, but I'm going to go with kind of relationship building. That's obviously it's part of sales, but as you're going to grow an agency, the ability to work with people, tailor, you know, what you need to them as well, I think is a huge part of this. Otherwise, you lose people too quickly, and that's just going to kind of chop you off at the knees, right? You wouldn't be able to grow unless you're able to retain your best people as well as your best clients as well. And if you're good at talking to people, building those relationships, I think that'll set you in good stead.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you, Darren, for your time today. It's been insightful and enlightening, I think. So, look, really enjoyed it, and you know, very keen to see how you progress over the next few months, and you know, looking out now for you shouting more about what you're good at, right? Because you know, you've just committed to that on camera. So, look, really, yeah, thank you for coming on.
That's all right, no problem. Thanks for having me, Simon.
All right, thanks, Darren.
Okay. Bye.